I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
All right, hello and welcome to the next episode of the Root Zone podcast. I'm honored, thrilled, excited to have my next guest, Jon Wright of the Wright Insurance Agency. I got introduced to Jon many years ago with Steve. Steve went to college with Jon over there at Bloomsburg University. I believe you guys were frat brothers of some sort or something like that. But they were good friends there at Bloomsburg University. And then when I started Stout Lawn Care, I needed an insurance agent to make sure that if I burn a lawn or crash a car, I was covered, and that's where Jon Wright came in. And thanks, Jon. I appreciate you being here. How you doing today?
Doing good, man. Thanks for the nice intro. I
Yeah,
uh
man.
I'll set the record straight though. Steve and I did meet at Bloomsburg, but he was fraternity brothers with my roommate.
Uh,
And so my roommate and him were always hanging. So by default, I was always just there, a little bit of like the third wheel.
yeah,
But Steve and I just hit it off from the beginning. I mean, how can you not be friends with Steve? And so him and I just been buddies ever since. So yeah, it's
nice.
that's the real story. I don't want to upset any fraternity,
Oh
rules and
yeah, yeah,
regulations here, you know.
yeah. They'd be upset. You'd have to run a mile with some bricks in your backpack, something like that. But anyway, so the reason why I want to get Jon on here is because I don't know anything about insurance, and I have no clue what we pay for, why we pay for it, who we're paying. Well, I know who we're paying, but I don't really get it, and I think it's a good opportunity to get you on here and just discuss the ups and downs of the insurance business. What are some good points, and I honestly, the last couple months, I've been seeing a lot of commercials on discount, insurance agencies. Do this and save 20%, 30%. So, the first question I have for you is what, Jon, like as a small business, why is it so important to have an insurance agent that is going to be there for you and that has your best interest at heart?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, anytime you own something in this world we live in, you need insurance, right? So you buy your first car, you got to have insurance on it. You buy your first house, you got to have insurance on it, right? And if you start a business and you're the business owner, right, that's another thing that you own that you need to insure. It's just the way it goes. And so I think a lot of it comes down to the type of person that you are and also the type of business that you have, right? But we all need insurance. And I think that using an independent agent like myself or using, an insurance agency to sort of kind of handle that for you, I think is the best way. And I think that's one reason why we're here is business owners are busy running their business. They don't want to be busy looking at insurance all day, right? As little as possible.
Yeah, yeah. That's like the one thing that, we had a conversation, I guess Tuesday, and we do it every year. Quick, I mean, that was what, a 15-minute conversation to discuss,
That's it.
has anything changed? Do I need to worry about anything? And that was it. And it was, that was perfect, and that's, I insurance is such like it's like a naughty word, man. It's like everyone has to have it, everyone has to pay for it. What are some of the things that, like, some people should look for? Like, I could probably go online and find, I don't know, some online insurance agency to give me all the right things, but what's some of the advantages to having you right down the street from us, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar to other types of industries, right? I don't think the insurance business is that dissimilar, where, the level of service and the level of care that you get certainly makes a difference in the experience that you have. And I always use the example of Wawa selling coffee, right? And I'm a Wawa guy. I'm not dissing Wawa, but like, Wawa sells so much coffee every day, right? Just they're always on the most popular corner. They always have the advertising going, right? They're selling gas, they're selling hoagies. They're gonna just by default sell a bajillion cups of coffee. Might not be the best coffee in the world, but just by sheer volume, they're selling a lot versus that little cool independent coffee shop down the street, right? Place is super dope, great music. The owner's in there, his wife's in there. They got cool vibes. That coffee is awesome, right? But
Yeah.
they don't know as many people. They don't have as big of a reach. But when you go in there, they know you by name. They got your coffee waiting for you. They ask you about your family. To me, that's the type of experience I want to have, right? That's just the type of guy I am. And I think when you're a business owner, you're busy all day delivering your products or your services to your customers, and you start to become rewired a little bit as a business owner on that experience that you want to give, right? Your Stout lawn care clients, me, my Wright agency clients. So then when you're in your personal life, all of a sudden you're like, yo, I don't want the Wawa experience, man. I don't want to pour my own coffee out of some weird pitcher, behind 70 people in line, people crying and screaming, and the doors
Yeah.
open and it's cold. I want that cute little coffee shop, man. That's what I'm after, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of the Wright agency approach is we try to be that. And business owners really seem to respond to that.
Now, with that, do you find that you're able to service your customers a little better because of, the care that you're putting into each and every customer, right? So, let's just go through an example. I get in a car accident, right? One of my guys get in a car accident. How is the right agency? Is it just, I'm trying to like think outside the box and like people that are listening, why would we want to go with somebody small like John Wright instead of going with Allstate or something like that? What's the difference in a scenario like that?
Yeah, I mean, I have this conversation all the time, and I mean, it's kind of one of those things, and this is a little cliche, but I think people will get it. Like, it doesn't matter until it matters, right? You get your invoice in the mail, you write that check, you send it away, you think to yourself, this insurance is a racket, man. I'm not using this. What's this
Yeah.
really going for? Until something happens, right? Until one of your employees smashes a truck up and runs into somebody, maybe hurts somebody, maybe hurts themselves, certainly damages your equipment, right? So as a business owner, as soon as you got equipment down, you're already thinking money, right? How
Yeah.
much to fix it and how much am I losing, why I'm fixing it, right? So as soon as that type of thing happens, you know, with a place that's maybe not as personal, who doesn't know you, you're calling a 1-800 number
Yeah.
and you're giving them a policy number. The person has never talked to you before. They don't know what state you're in. They certainly don't know what you do for a living. And they don't know a whole lot about the dynamic of what you've got going on. And some people might say, well, what does that have to do with anything? If you've ever been involved in a serious auto accident or a claim or something, it has a lot, right? You don't want to have to tell your story to some stranger
Yeah.
over and over again. Like, let's just cut to the chase, right? John, what's up? It's Chris. Dude crashed a truck. I need your help. We don't have to be like, Chris, could you tell me your date of birth? Chris, could you
Yeah.
verify your address? Like, that stuff drives you up a wall.
Yeah.
It drives you up a wall any day of the week, right? Especially if you're in that like sort of pressure cooker moment or stressful moment. And I think that type of thing is really cool. And then to take it one step further, like if I sense the stress in your voice, and I know you for a while, right? So I know you're a pretty cool dude. Nothing really
Right.
rattles you all that much. I know you get fired up about some stuff, but I could tell if it's like excitement or if it's like, yo, Chris is really upset right now. Like I know you well enough to know the difference, right? I could say, listen, hang up the phone. I got this. I'll do it for you. I'll do everything for you. Keep an eye on your phone. I'll text you the claim number. I'll text you the next 3 things that you need to do, right? You'll never get that anywhere else.
No.
You
No.
know what I mean? So, I mean, there's other agencies like the Wright agency out there that might provide that service, but I mean like a place like mine or the Wright agency itself, like places just won't do that, right? I mean, it's like having your coffee waiting for you when you walk in the door. Like that just doesn't happen, right?
Yeah. And that's
So
that's a
that's a
lot of it too.
difference.
It's just it. when we made the switch to the Wright agency, I was talking to Steve and I said, it's just going to be easier. Because if we have a quick question, if we have, something pops up in our mind, insurance related, it's so much easier to call John Wright than it is to call Allstate and have a question
Yep.
and get it answered in a timely manner. Because, as a small business, time is everything. Like you said, getting that claim filed, getting that side of it done. We don't have time to get that done. I'd rather
Right.
hand it to John and say, "Hey, John, guy got in a car accident. Here you go. Here's the information. What are next steps, right?" And so when we're talking about coverage, right? There's no real difference in coverage though. When you're talking about, because my wife sells health insurance and we always joke that everyone's always looking for a better rate with health insurance. And she's like, well, you're not going to get a better rate. That's just not how it works.
Not how
Is
it works.
is the insurance industry very similar, or that side of it pretty similar, where
Sort of,
there's
kind
big boys that provide the coverage and they're not going to come off their price, right? And they're all the big boys are the same price, so you're not going to get maybe a little leeway. But is that really how it works? Or
Not exactly, right? So I always say it like this. I always say it like insurance companies are kind of like the grocery store, right? And your agent is kind of like somebody walking through the store with a shopping cart, right? We all have access to the same products that are on the shelf, right? It's
yeah,
all the same stuff. And company A and company B are rolling down the same aisle. And to your wife's point, it's all the same stuff, right? Like there's nothing hidden in the back, right? We're all
yeah,
shopping from the same stuff. But what makes a difference is what things I choose to put in my cart for my customer. And then when I get home to my house, how I mix them together and present you that final product, right? I mean, I don't know about you. I can barely boil water, dude. So like if you and me were in like a make dinner challenge and we both went to the same grocery store with shopping cart and we had a $150 budget to cook dinner, yours would probably turn out way better than mine, right? Same guy, like, same time,
yeah.
same store, but yours is different than mine. It's all about how you choose the ingredients and how you put them together. And that's sort of where somebody like me, and it comes with time and experience. I was fortunate enough to have my dad work with me before he retired, and he kind of showed me the way that he put it together, right? Think about your old grandmom showing you how to make that recipe,
Yeah.
It's like, dude, isn't that the same spaghetti that I make? Nah, it's different, man. Grandma's had something different, right? That's kind of like my dad. He showed me how to put it together. So it might look like the same thing. And for most people, it's like, oh, dude, insurance is insurance is insurance, dude. I'll save you $50 here, $100 there,
Yeah.
but not necessarily, right? It's put together a little bit different. And that can sometimes be the difference of a
And
real easy experience or a painful experience.
on that thought, can it be better ingredients, right? Is there better, are you going to provide maybe a better solution or policy to handle my personal business better than a mechanic, or better than a real estate agent, or better
Oh,
than a plumber, right?
for sure.
Is
Yeah, I
that
mean,
how it's combined?
exactly. I mean, and that's the conversation that I have a lot with people, like somebody will call me up and they'll tell me what they do for a living and I'll just shoot them straight. I mean, you know me, I'll shoot you straight, and I just say to the guy, "Listen, I don't have the ingredients to build a policy that's right for you. I'm
Yeah.
not your guy, right?" And so it just depends, on what type of work you do. If you're a barber shop, if you're a restaurant, if you're a lawn care, if you're a, medical office, I got you, right? But like certain things outside of that, I don't. And that's because I don't have those things on my shelf. And and you just can't be all things to everybody, right? I mean, it's like somebody maybe, in your industry being like, "Hey, while you're out here, would you guys install a tennis court in the yard?" It's like, dude, I don't do sports courts, right? I'm just making sure it looks good and it's a healthy yard. I'm not adding, sporting equipment while I'm out here. But people don't know.
Yeah. And we get that a lot too, is I guess you really got to stay in your lane, right?
You
And
do.
I think that if I start mowing lawns or I start installing trees, I'm going to be pulled in a million different directions, and nothing's going to be good. And I guess that's it. Does it kind of sound the same as insurance? Like you stay
Hey,
in your lane, you know what you do, right?
I
You're
do.
not going to insure the Lincoln Financial Field. That's not your
Nope.
lane. Or you're not going to
Nope.
insure a million company, employee company, right?
Nope.
That's it. So that's interesting. I would think in the insurance world that you just give it to me. I'll
Yeah.
insure anything. I'll insure your pet if you want me to insure your pet. But I guess it's same as us. You pick and choose. You want to make sure that you got the right business.
You do. And dude, sorry to always go back to the restaurant thing. Maybe it's because it's before lunch and I'm hungry, but like, it's like, um, I always look at myself like a restaurant. And if somebody comes in, if I don't have it on my menu, I'm not making it, right? And the reason is it's going to be terrible and you're going to have a horrible experience. And I don't want that on my name, right? And I don't want that on my business. So if you come in my door and you ask for insurance for Lincoln Financial Field, even though that's a big account and I can make a lot of money and blah, 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 I'm not going to try to do that because, first of all, I don't have the tools to do it. And second of all, God forbid there was a claim or an accident or a problem that falls right in my lap, right? And I knew darn well going into it that I wasn't matched up correctly with this. So unless I feel totally comfortable, and I have to turn people away all the time. I have friends that send me people, hey, this is my buddy. Hey, this is my friend, this, that, and the third. And we just don't do it. I mean, it is what it is. And after 18, almost 19 years, I've gotten super comfortable saying no. And I mean, that's not always easy as a business owner to say no, especially when you're trying to get those get those
Yeah, it was a lot harder the first couple years for
for
sure.
sure.
Those first 2 years, I'm taking whatever I can get, and it's harder to
Yeah,
say no. But as we're entering our sixth year, it becomes a lot easier, and it's funny because I don't know if easier is the right, but you're just more confident in your answers, right?
for sure.
You're like, hey, listen, I just that's just out of my wheelhouse, and I prefer you to go to X company because they will handle they do that, and they're better at it than us, and it's always and I don't mind that in my because I mean, John, you've been our insurance agent for 4 years now. I think the first year we had a buddy of mine, Kevin O'Connor. He runs an small insurance agency of his own, and he came to me the last year or the after the first year and said, "Hey, listen, I'm just not a fit for you."
Yeah,
He primarily works in office space and office retail and big corporate accounts and things like that. He's like, "Listen, I could do this. I could kind of piecemeal a plan together for you, but it's just not going to be what you want." And that was really, coming from a friend that obviously wants business, obviously
sure.
wants to continue to grow. But for him to give me that straight answer was a little bit
That's good.
eye-opening because
Yeah,
I just thought, my dumb lawn brain was just like, oh, insurance is insurance. I can go to
right.
Allstate, I can go to Kevin, I can go to John, I can go to whoever it may be, and it's all going to be the same. But
Sure.
it's just eye-opening to think that it's not. And what are some of the things that I, as a small business, what should we be looking forward in an
Well,
agent, right?
I mean, that's while you were talking, I was thinking about some of the other things that you learned, right? And I don't mean you, I just mean in general, people learn. And I see it with my customers. And I mean, I see it with myself too, right? But I mean, when you're a business owner, a small business owner, right, you have to wear so many different hats. I always joke around, that I'm, refilling the coffee maker, taking out the trash. I do the social media marketing and some different things that are way outside of my day-to-day, responsibilities as an insurance agent, broker, and owner of a business. But guess what? You got to get it done, right? Because there's nobody else to do it in a small business. And I think when you're running a business, you're going to look at all the different things that kind of pool at your time. And I think that some people think that, insurance is something that they need to dedicate a lot of time to. And also, we've been trained that, the lowest price savings, 30%, 20%, blah, blah, blah. We've been taught that that's sort of what we're supposed to do. And I think that as I watch some of my customers go along, and some of this comes with success of the business, but it's like, you know what? I'm not going to read through this 65-page policy packet that I just got in the mail. I'm going to trust that to Jon. He's my guy. And also, too, I'm also not going to worry about, $84 here, $16 here, $105 here. Like, I got to keep it moving, right? Like, I've got bigger fish to fry. And, in your business, I know you have a lot of variable costs and supplies and things like that, and people and different things that, are very big things. And, line item for, liability insurance probably shouldn't be where you're spending an hour and a half of your day, right? And I think when you first start out your business, you're trying to just tackle everything. And I see a lot of guys do that. And I'm happy to sit on the phone or come to a meeting with people. But I notice that after about year 3, 4, 5, you know, unless something extreme changes, and unless there's a pain point, like if all of a sudden I would send you a bill for, $15,000 out of the blue, you might be like, oh, maybe we ought to chat about this, right? But I think there comes a point where your budget, we all have a budget. I think there becomes a point where your budget sort of almost just allows for like a little wiggle in some areas. And those areas are usually determined by how important that thing is or not, right? Like for me in my business, something that's critical is phone and internet, right? Like a lot of my business is digital. We're making a lot of phone calls every day. I get, in the agency, close to 500 emails a day from clients and companies and providers. And that's super important. So like, dude, I got to have the best of that. No questions asked. I'm not skimping on that,
Yeah.
you know? And that's
And
a
I think
critical component.
the first, it's funny you say that packet because I mean, the first year or two when you sent me that packet, I was literally
Yeah.
like flipping through it because I thought I had to, right? As a business owner, I want to do my due diligence. I'm looking through this paperwork, like I
Yeah.
should read it, I should know this. But
Right.
like we had the conversation on Tuesday, I got the packet and I give you a call. Are we set? Are we good for this year, right? Are the trucks updated? Did I buy any new equipment? It's a couple quick questions and then we're off the phone. But
That's
it's
it.
just funny you say that because as a small business owner, we're so wrapped up in managing every aspect of the business. Did we get that much product down on that lawn? Did we put a post up on social media? Did we? It's we're bouncing around, and now it's really nice to have you now because first of all we have a personal relationship through Steve, but second of all I don't have to worry about my insurance anymore, and
Right.
that's the ultimate goal as a small business owner is to get things off your plate so
That's it.
you can continue to grow the business, right?
Dude, that's exactly it. And I feel the same way, man, about different providers in my life. My IT guys, like I was just saying, phone and email is so critical. And man, I remember the first couple years I was in here crawling under desks, running wires and cables, trying to understand my servers and all my this, that, and the third. Now, phone call, right? Guys, handle this. And do you pay for it? Sure, you pay for it, right? But guess what? The ability for me to not have to take up brain space with IT and communication issues in my day-to-day life, Chris, is worth every nickel, And I feel so strongly about that. And, I think as we get older and wiser, you start to learn the things that you're not good at, right? And some of that's swallowing a little of your pride. And you know what? If you're not a money guy, get somebody to help you with your books, right? If you're not a marketing guy, if you're shy and you're just, you're an introvert, you got to get somebody to do your Facebook and your social media, right? Maybe you can't do your own podcast, right? Because you're
Yeah.
just like so shy of and that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But the longer you fight that, the harder of a struggle I think you're going to have. And I think a lot of business owners, you just hit the nail on the head, man. They hold on to stuff a little too long. They hold on to that packet and they are going through highlighting, Jon, page 46, section 12. It's like, dude, this is the most insignificant part of the policy. that I know that because I'm the agent and I read this 1,000 times, but you don't know that, you're wasting your time here, right? So I think that's important to, keep evolving and you could take something off your plate, do it. And that's the service that we provide,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like you guys.
Along those lines, right? Like, so, you know, there's so much complexity to a policy, right? There's, your auto coverage, we now we run our, what not our, not unemployment insurance. What's the other one? The state makes you pay it.
Workers' comp.
Workers' comp. That's it, right? So that was always a big one for me that I was like, I never understood workers' comp because you apparently you got to get it through the state, then you gotta. Can you explain me that, like, so I can finally understand it? Like, how does that workers' comp work?
Sure. So workers' comp's tricky, right? So basically what workers' compensation is what that's a abbreviation for, is insurance that a business owner has to have by law to protect the well-being of your employees, right? And I think, many moons ago, and I don't know all the ins and outs of how it started, but the business owner was taking advantage of their workforce in some way. And if somebody got hurt on the job, helping you grow your business or helping me grow my business, tough stuff, buddy. Hope you feel better. Have a great day. Well, that's not the world we live in anymore. And if somebody gets injured on the workplace, there is, policies and procedures in place to take care of that person in order to make sure financially that they're taken care of for, whatever problems that they may have incurred, get them back on their feet. And in reality, the point is to get them back working for the place where they worked, right? And so that's what workers' comp insurance is. Yeah, that's just a quick high level view. But the funny part about it is, and of course, insurance companies, man, they're a tricky bunch. And they are very picky about workers' compensation. And a couple of the things that they're picky about is, first of all, what type of work do you do? Somebody that works at the Wright agency, we might trip and fall and bump our elbow on the copier, or
Yeah.
maybe we'll get a paper cut going through some folders or something, right? So it's not a high risk industry. So insurance companies are happy to write my workers' comp insurance all day long, right? I'm an easy one.
Yeah.
Somebody that is a little bit more hands-on, right? Manufacturing, maybe lawn care, where
Rework.
yeah, construction or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
You could potentially get hurt more severe and more often, right? So the insurance companies know that, and therefore they're going to, put a red flag up when they hear about you, and they're going to scrutinize that a little bit more. One of the things that they scrutinize is your history, right? Kind of like a credit score, right? You walk into the car dealership, you got perfect credit. They can't wait to sell you that car, right? You got your 800 credit score. You're the man, dude. This is a layup, right? They're gonna get you in that car and high five and out you go. You walk into that car dealership with crappy credit, right? They're not that excited, right? It's sort of like the same thing. So you walk into an insurance company with no history on your workers' comp, looking for a policy, they're going to look you up and down a little bit. And the reason is they don't know what type of operation you're running, right?
Got it.
And, do you have safety measures in place? Are you having safety meetings? Did your employees get properly trained on the equipment when they started? Or did you just throw the guy a pair of goggles and say, yo, have at it, right? Like, what type of owner are you? And the only way to know, is look at your history and see, hey, how many years has this guy been running his business and how many workers' comp claims has he had, right? Just like credit score, right? And so when you're a new business, you're kind of like the chicken or the egg, right? How am I supposed to get workers' comp
Yeah.
history if I can't get workers' comp, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, what do I do here? So what the state has decided to do is step in and they'll say, listen, Mr. New business owner, We understand that, an insurance company is not going to take you on without any history. So we will guarantee you workers' comp insurance through the state. It's called SWIFT, State Workers Insurance Fund. And SWIFT will give you an opportunity to build your credit, right? Build your history. So you go there and you go through the SWIFT program, 1, 2, 3 years, whatever it is, right? God forbid you don't have a claim. Then you get that document from them. You show it to a guy like me and you say, look, 3 years, no claims, never missed a payment. I'm a good owner. And
Yeah.
then I'll say, Mr. Stout, come on in, right? And
Yeah.
then that's when you're then eligible for workers' comp insurance away from SWIFT, and potentially what you're going to do is you're going to get a better price.
Yeah. Yeah. I was always confused by that. And that explanation is perfect. It's like credit. How do you how do you establish credit without credit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Chicken or the egg,
But
right?
yeah, the state had to step in, right? Because I'm sure these insurance companies were like, we're just not writing this. Like, go on to the next one, go on to the next one, and
Go
it's
on to the next one until the guy got to the end of the line and there was no next one, right?
yeah, that's crazy. That it's just weird that the state would have to step in on something like that, or the government would have to step in. It's just I don't know, seems unfair almost at
Well, in
some point.
insurance companies, I mean, on a broader sense, right? Nobody knows insurance companies better than me, and nobody probably doesn't like them more than me. Everybody always thinks that the
Yeah,
agents are on their side, right? Like, oh, John's probably in bed with these companies because that's who butters his bread, right? Not necessarily, man. I got to interact with these guys all day long. I just know how to play the game.
yeah,
Right. And so I think that's kind of where I add value. If you're saying, oh man, John's on their side, not on mine, quite the opposite. I'm 100% on my customer's side because without customers, I got nothing. Right. So I'm on my customer's side first. I just know how to speak insurance company. And I always say, to use another analogy, I always liken insurance companies to casinos. And they might not like to hear that, but I always say they're like casinos because insurance companies don't lose, right? At the end of the day, you might think you're the man, you might think you're a hot shot, and you might go on a heater one night with your buddies and take them for some money. But guess what? You go back to that casino over and over and over again, they win, right?
yeah,
They set the rules, right? I mean, you ever hear these stories of people getting kicked out of casinos for winning too much, videotaping, counting cards? I mean, you all hear these stories, right?
yeah,
They set the rules, right? It's their game. And as soon as you step in that building, you give up all your normal human being rights, and it's the casino's world. You're just playing in it. And insurance companies are very similar, Chris. They don't lose, dude. They don't lose, right? So if they're going to look at a type of business like a workers' comp business, and they're going to sell workers' comp insurance to landscapers and lawn care professionals, they're going to find a way to make a ton of money off of that
yeah,
and make sure they don't lose. And so they found out, yo, we're losing, and we're losing bad because all these guys are opening these businesses. They have no idea how to manage their employees. Guys are breaking their legs, breaking their necks, twisting their ankles, cracking up their, shins or whatever. And we're paying tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars out in workers' comp claims, and we're losing.
yeah,
And so they don't lose, right?
yeah,
So they go to the state and they say, hey, listen, we can't do this anymore. And by the way, insurance companies are, pretty big funders of all the folks in all the different places you might imagine, right? So they know all the right conversations to have. And they go to those guys and they say, listen, we're losing and we don't like to lose and you don't want us to lose because if we lose, then you don't get your 100 million, right?
yeah.
So we need to find a way to do this. And that's how it happens, for better or worse.
Yeah. And it's just, uh, it's like it can be frustrating, but it makes sense in the end, right?
That's it.
It's
Yeah.
like it could be to get to the resolution can be frustrating, but I guess in any industry you can't lose. If Stout Lawn Care started losing every lawn because of some reason, we wouldn't do that anymore, right?
Correct.
And that's
Correct. you
It's
do
just the way
whatever
it
you
goes.
could
Yeah.
within your control to change that thing, right? Whatever that thing was.
Yeah. Yeah. On another topic, any like, we see all these trends in every industry. Hey, this is going to this, and it kind of leads me back to my original point. I see a big trend in not hiring John Wright or the Wright agency, hiring some online,
Mhm.
insurance. What are some drawbacks of doing that? I don't plan to do it because I have such a good relationship with you, but there's a lot of business owners that are penny pitchers. Hey, insurance is this. It's just insurance. I don't have to worry about it. I'm gonna find that best rate. Why should business owners not do that?
Well,
What?
I'll debunk a little bit of that, right? So the insurance business, the insurance industry as a whole is not unlike any other industry, right? It's all about marketing at the end of the day. And most people who own a business who are already established and already have a relationship like you have with your insurance agency, um, don't really shop at those places.
Yeah,
They're out there and they see them and they're floating by. They're on YouTube and they're on Instagram, and you see the ad in the magazine or whatever you're flipping through at the airport, and they're all everywhere, right? Save,
yeah,
save, save, service, service, service. We've got all the options. They're out there, but not many people that are already in what I call like the independent agency channel. Not many of them consider that a viable option. I think where that is very popular is that's for day one guy, right? Hey, I want to start a business. I want to open up my shop. What do I do for insurance? Oh, I go here, right? Because I just saw it 70 times this week.
yeah,
That's the one I'm going to go to, right? And so in the world of insurance, what happens is if there's 100 guys starting businesses next month in the Philadelphia area, probably 75 of them are going to go to one of those types of places, right? And out of those 75 guys, 10 of those businesses will fail the first year, right? So was it the fault of the insurance they got online? Probably not. It's probably their fault and something
yeah,
else, right? Out of that other 65 that's left, probably maybe half will be okay, right? They'll never have a problem. The price works for them. They never had a claim. They never had an issue. They're lucky enough to never have any waves in their world. And they're going to roll along with that online insurance provider. And what they don't know, right? And they just cruise with it and it works. The other half is going to have an issue, and they're going to realize that calling the 1-800 number sucks. And they're also going to realize that when you have a billing problem, calling some call center in God knows where, talking to God knows who, is frustrating. It doesn't work as a business owner. So what they'll do is they'll leave, right? But those types of businesses are just based on volume. And out of that 100 guys, if every year they can hang on to 30 or 40 of them, the complacent guys, right, that aren't having any issues and they're just going to keep sending their money in, that's all they care about. They don't care if you have a problem, leave. They
yeah.
don't care. You know what I mean?
Well,
They're playing a numbers game.
in my industry, it's True Green or the big boys.
Sure.
They all they are looking at is their total customer count, right? And
That's
they
it.
might have 40% cancel rates. They're up in the 30,
I
40%
bet they
cancel
do.
rate.
Yeah.
So they're fighting to get those 40, 50, 70% back every year. Where I'm comparing, like, I don't want the rat race.
Right.
I don't need the rat race of finding an insurance company to save me $400 for the year. It,
Correct.
it means it means nothing to me when I know, like you said, I can call if someone gets an accident, I can call John Wright. Like, I
Same
am
with
not
me.
calling
Same with your
any.
customers too, right? Like they probably get a True Green thing in the mail every week in the summer.
Every week.
Save 10%, free consultation on your health or your yard, right? Some BS, right? And and your customers who you have built that little wall with, right? From your good service and your personality and the way you guys are, they take it and throw it in the trash, right? And like they could care less about 10%, right? Because they're like numb to that.
Yeah.
And that True Green, they, on the flip side, they could care less about the guy that's irate with his yard that they screwed up. Cancel. We
Cancel
don't care.
something. Yeah.
We got 700,000 other customers that are paying us. We could care less about you and your problems. It costs them too much money to fix the problem. Just leave.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of like, hate to mention names, but you've mentioned Allstate a couple times. Allstate, State Farm, Nationwide, Geico,
Yeah.
Farmers, some of those bigger ones you see on TV every 30 seconds, right? Peyton Manning's not helping you with your policy, right? He's just on there for their commercials. And it's the same thing as like your True
Well,
Greens and your stuff like
are
that.
are those companies, I like to say that when I talk to prospective customers, I say, listen, we're all pretty much putting down the same thing. It's really about who's doing it, when they're doing it, why they're doing it, and knowing
Sure.
the difference, right? Is it the same, is State Farm using the same insurance that you would be using, right? The same big boys in the back end, because it's not State Farm that's insuring it. It's X company, right?
Yeah.
And
Again,
back.
it's back to that example of we're all shopping at the same store, right? And I think that's the same. I think most of it comes down to use State Farm as an example, State Farm and some of these other places. A lot of it just comes down to the agent. I know some guys that are with State Farm that are sharp dudes,
Yeah.
know their stuff, and they're great guys, right? And I'm not saying anything bad about them personally. And I'm sure if there's some watching this, or or your buddy's cousin's aunt knows one, and they're, you know what I mean? They're great dudes, right? But on the average, you take 100 State Farm agents, yeah, maybe they're not all like that, right? So, and I'm sure the same in your business too, right? You got
100%.
these franchise guys, and they know, maybe out of 50 guys in Pennsylvania, there's a handful of guys that are killing it. They're sharp dudes, they're nice guys, and you could have a beer with them and be like,
Yeah.
pretty nice guy, right? The other 95% of them are knuckleheads, and they're just going through the motions, relying on that big brother marketing machine to just get their clients, and they can just be asleep at the wheel, and they don't care if you got the right lawn treatment or the right insurance policy, because you're going to cancel, you're going to leave them a bad review, and while you're doing that, they're going to get 30 new customers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
So it's the same model.
it's funny you say that, because I try to guide my techs away from talking bad about the other companies, right?
For sure.
And that, just in general, we want to do that. But it's
Sure.
funny you say that, because the reason why I tell my guys is because you don't know, True Green can have an amazing guy that's doing your lawn, right?
Yeah.
That's not a it's just not part of it, right? And I guess that's the same as a State Farm. A
Sure.
local guy could be awesome at what
Sure.
he does, and he could be a great fit for your company. But
Yeah, you never know.
you never know. And it's nice, it puts a little, puts a good feeling in your heart to support someone like you or Kevin O'Connor that's a smaller business just like me, right? I'd rather give you the money and the extra $300 or $800 a year, because I'm giving it to Jon and Jon's family, right? And I know that that money's going somewhere for
Yeah.
Jon and his
I mean,
family,
and again, I'm wired that way, and I think the longer you are a business owner, the more you're wired that way.
Yeah.
Back to my coffee shop example, I will gladly pay you $1.50 more for my cappuccino, right? Because I know that your coffee shop sponsors my kid's little league team, right? And that matters, right? Or I see you doing your social media, on my Facebook, connected to my community, and you're out there doing something good for the community, right? I mean, small business is the backbone, man, of all our little communities, right? Whether it's, Pottstown, Phoenixville, Downingtown, Westchester. I mean, we're all in it together. And, if we all just start throwing our money at these big Fortune 500 companies, they'll continue to just steamroll right over. And you know what? We'll all be upset at the quality of life and service and products that we have, and we'll have nobody to blame but ourselves, right? So I'm a big proponent of that, man. Main Street USA, small town, family business. I mean, to me, that's my thing, and I think that's,
you live it.
yeah, I do
You
live
gotta
it,
live
and
it.
I try to talk the talk, and also walk the walk, and I think that also can become a thing that helps form relationships, with guys like yourself and other like-minded people. And I'm sure you're already seeing it with guys in your world, friends of your kids, parents and stuff like that. You start to make a connection with a guy or a gal based on, sort of that same philosophy. And I
Well, it
love
was
it.
nice. It was nice last night when we went to this kickoff thing. A couple of buddies of mine launched a canned cocktail company. It's called Not Pizza. We're excited about it. Where everybody was happy about it. But it was really, to your point, it was really cool walking in there. It was like kind of like a VIP. There's only a certain amount of people invited, but I was looking around the room and I'm like, oh, that's Bill Rudder. He owns 3 restaurants. Oh, that's what's his name? He owns the marketing company down the road. Like it was so cool to see an event like that where it was just like all of these little small businesses that are just there to help. Like we didn't have to go there. We don't have to post stuff on our Instagram about Not Pizza and Facebook and like
Right.
promote his business. And they're good. They're great drinks. Like, but it was really cool to walk up into that room and be like, and I'm getting to that point where I never looked at myself as like this little like I'm a business owner now. I have to not carry myself differently, but like
Sure.
you're just
Good
different.
way to put it. Yeah.
It's cool to like it's cool to like, hey, I own a business, that guy owns a business, and we're having this like event and we're all supporting each other. It was just a very cool thing to look around and just see all these little small businesses that are just here and they didn't have to be there. They're there to help Luke and Chris out. It was awesome.
I think, yeah, I mean, that resonates so much with me. And I also think like, as a business owner, you walked into that room and the first thing that you did was sort of scan the room and a couple people jumped out at you. You just mentioned their names and you never know why you're in there having your drink, chilling. You never know who walked into that room and noticed you. Right. And maybe they didn't, but maybe
Yeah.
they will someday, right? Like after so many years, oh my gosh, that's Chris. He's a guy from the podcast and from, the company, and I know him and I've been a customer of his or blah, blah, blah. And I mean, to me, that's cool, right? I mean, now you're making an impact, not only just directly to your clients with the service that you provide, but to your community, right? Like some young guy is looking up to you or girl is looking up to you. And I think that's really cool. And, that's hard to do. And I think that people underestimate how hard that is to do, to have that staying power. And, you guys are in year 6 jamming. And I think, you're feeling that like that momentum. And I think it's cool to see. And I mean, I think it's funny too, because I known you before this and I always just knew you as Stout. And that was good
Yeah.
enough for me. You were
Yeah.
Steve's buddy and you were cool and we were friends and that was it. But now, like if somebody were to mention your name, no disrespect to anything else that you've done in your life, but I feel like I'm mentioning your business like right after that,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's cool, man.
Is it hard for you to accept that recognition now? Like you're heavily involved in your community. You got the Chamber of Commerce, you lead that, and like, but it's still an awkward feeling to be known, right? Like now that I go to places where my kid's baseball game or Sammy's dance or something like that, and I'm like, oh, you're Chris from Stout Lawn Care, and
Yeah,
I don't have anything on. It's just like I'm wearing my
sure.
normal attire, but it's a weird feeling. It definitely is.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I don't know. I think we all have our own little things that we struggle with there as a business owner, operator, whatever. I'm a second generation, right? So I grew up watching my dad have that conversation like, hey, that's the guy from the Wright agency. And that's his son. And that was me. Now I'm the guy from the Wright agency walking
Yep.
with my son, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that part feels a little bit more familiar to me. And I guess I've embraced that maybe quicker than most. But we've all got our stuff that makes us uncomfortable. I often will do stuff like this where I do podcasts or I go speak at schools or I do different things in front of community, events and stuff and I'll talk and every once in a while somebody will slip up and call me an entrepreneur. And that bothers me, right? Because I didn't start the business. And
Yeah.
if you look up the definition of entrepreneur, that's somebody who starts a business. And I sometimes I just let it slide. I'm not like all upset
Yeah.
about it, but other times I'll make sure to get my little dig in there and give my dad the credit, right? And just say,
Yeah.
just to be clear, I'm not an entrepreneur. My dad was, and he created this thing that I now have the honor and privilege of being a part of. But just to be super clear, I've never started a business because, as you well know, starting one is really, really hard. And to me, it does deserve the full recognition. It's like if you were an Olympic gold medal and somebody slipped up and introduced you as an Olympic silver medalist, somebody
Yeah.
better correct that, right? Because dude, I didn't get the silver, I got the
Yeah.
gold, right?
Yeah.
And I always, I am like extra sensitive to that because of my dad and his sacrifices that he made for me to make my path and my journey that much easier. And so that's I'm not embarrassed like what you described, but I'm embarrassed of that, right? Don't call me an entrepreneur, you know? So everybody's got their thing.
It's a weird thing, it's really hard for me as a business owner to take credit, right? Where the
Sure.
business is and is going. Like to this day, I still am not confident in my abilities to run a business, right? I'm not confident in my abilities to talk about business, even
Sure.
though I've been doing it for 15 years and I
Uh-huh.
probably know more about lawns and small business and running a lawn care company than 95% of the world. But there's
Maybe
something
99.
inside of me. There's something inside of me that is like you're just a normal, you're just Chris, and
Yeah.
there's something special about you, right? And I think it's good to have both those, you know?
I think it is. And I think that that's probably what makes you good is that feeling of like, everybody's still trying to eat my lunch and I am not good and I got to keep getting better. And, that little feeling of sort of like anxiety, I think is healthy for a business owner. And I struggled with that. I think I mentioned, this is my 19th year, probably about halfway through. I struggled, and I remember talking to some people, some people I really respect and look up to. One of them, my dad, some other people in the community, about like, am I always going to feel this way? Right?
Yeah.
Am I always going to feel like somebody's chasing me? Like I left the house and I left the stove on, right? Like
Yeah.
something's just bothering me
Something.
all the time. And a couple people said, John, yeah, you have to get comfortable with that. That's never going to go away, but be glad that it's not going to go away because as soon as that goes away, your business is going to lose the secret sauce that is making it successful, which is you waking up every morning feeling like you got something to prove, right? And I think, you and me are similar, right? On the outside, we're smiling, we're having a good
Yeah.
time, but on the inside, we're going 100 miles an hour, man. And I think that that is somewhat driven by anxiety and discomfort. And I think that once you realize that that's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, and you change your perspective on it and you use it as rocket fuel, I think that is a cool thing, right? So definitely don't try to diffuse the light,
Yeah.
and make it go away, but learn how to maybe point the gun in another direction and then follow it. So
Yeah.
I definitely struggled with that, and probably always will.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think it'll always be weird to be recognized, right? And now that I have the podcast and things like that, it's great. It's gaining a little momentum. And I was at a conference last year and someone like literally just said, "Oh, you're Chris from the Root Zone." And like, I was
Love
like
that.
blown away. Because I was
That's
looking,
unbelievable, by the way.
it was last year and maybe I had 300 downloads, right? It was just the beginning. And like that guy that was at that conference was one of those 300 downloads. And it was just very eye opening. Like, hey, maybe this is fun. Maybe it is worth it. Maybe, people are listening to it every once in a while. And, people are like, why are you doing the podcast? I said, I don't know. I don't have a clear, like there's no clear vision for this. This is, the reason why I do it is because I've had these conversations with John, with Mike, with Stephanie, whoever it may be, but we never recorded them. And I got all the information out of it. No one else did. And so that's why I kind of wanted to bring you on is I think the insurance world is very scary. I think it's very, um, I know nothing about it and I shouldn't know anything about it. So, what are some, maybe some tidbits that you can give to our audience out there choosing a provider, choosing a policy? What are some key things that you would harp on if you're looking for insurance?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a business owner or not, right, I think that this is the same feedback that I would give anybody. And I think you and me just proved this for 1 hour and 2 minutes or however long it's been from us chatting, which by the way feels like we've been talking for 5 minutes.
I know that's
But
crazy.
I think that first of all, find an agent that you're comfortable with, right? I mean, first and foremost, find an agent that you're comfortable with. And I think that if you can't even chat with the person about the weather or the Eagles game coming up or, whatever your thing is, right? Well, that's not off to a great start, right? And so interview the agent, right? Similar to you would with anything else in your life, a doctor, a dentist, a real estate agent. You're not just going to use somebody because they have a cool Facebook page or
Yeah.
because they have blonde hair, right? Like get to know the person, and they might even somebody that looks different than you might fit with you really, really well. And I think that chemistry can make a lot of things in your life easier, insurance being one of them. So make sure that you do that and you feel comfortable with the person. The second thing is I think that you should, as any type of person, realize that you need to sort of give up the control, right? We all think we know about insurance based on watching commercials during football games,
Yeah.
right? You don't know anything, right? You
Yeah.
don't know anything, and so as soon as you try to call the insurance place and act like you know what's going on and this is what you're looking for, I mean, that would be like walking into your doctor's office and prescribing yourself medicine. I mean, that you wouldn't do that, right? You would sit down, shut up, and listen to what the doctor has to say.
Yeah.
And I think let your agent, again, that you feel comfortable with, that you've established, like, hey, this could be my guy or my girl, let them do their job and let them guide you down the right path, with your assistants, right? Like you're the vice president, right? So you let them take charge and then you help them out. And I think that if you follow those two things, I think the rest of it pretty much will fall into place.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's customized to you, it's customized to your business or your life, and nobody knows that better than you, right? You just need to establish that line of communication with the right person and then let them do their thing and put something together for you.
Contrary to that, any red flags? Any red flags that you've come across in the years of doing insurance? Like, hey,
Yeah.
maybe not I don't want to say a specific person or a specific company, but is there anything that you could think of like, hey, maybe if they're not doing this, that's a red flag, or if they're not assisting you in this, that's a red flag? Any of those that you can think of on the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, I think personally that if and this goes on both sides, right? This is a red flag for me and for you, right? If price is all you talk about the whole time, and if that's all that the person or place seems to be concerned with is the price, I would be nervous because that should not be the driving factor of what you're there to accomplish, right? That should not be the overlying theme of the conversation. And if it is, I would be very cautious about the quality of the product and the thoroughness of the individual talking to you about it, because that's not the game that we're in. We're in the protection business, right? We're out to protect our customers. And if you got a Mercedes Benz and you walk out of my office with insurance on a Honda, you're going to be pretty upset. But if all we did was talk about price, that's what you're going to get because that's what you paid for, right? So I think that's a flag. If it's all like, yo, I'll save you money. I'll save you $5,000. I'll save you 20%. Give me a shot. I'll put some money back in your pocket. That's not the guy, right? And so that's where my flag would go up right away, especially for a business owner, right? You know,
And that's the same thing in our business. If we get a phone call for a prospective customer, and the first thing they talk about is how much is your service? Well, they're just shopping. They're
It's
shopping.
not off to a great start, is it?
Because we're not going to beat. We're just like you. You're
Right.
not going to. You don't want to compete with the national companies.
Right.
We
The
don't want to.
general, the
Yeah.
one that Shaq does. You ever see Shaq doing the general?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's like $99, right? For
Yeah.
like some, whatever policy written out of a, back of a cereal box or something,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, yeah, you could get it, but you're right. Yeah, it's off to the wrong foot if that's where it starts off. So that's a red flag, I think, with anything, man.
Awesome. Well, we've reached our time limit, not limit, but this was
We did it.
we did it, man. This was quick. I was a little hungover today. I didn't know I was gonna be able to speak in sentences, but it worked out well. I really appreciate you coming on. I'll put all the show notes and I'll put your link in case anybody has any questions, in case somebody's looking for a new insurance agent. I can't recommend Jon Wright any more than having him on my podcast. But yeah, I'm really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, dude, the pleasure was all mine. I mean, it's been fun to just hang with you for a little bit here on a Thursday and be a part of this podcast that I've watched grow. I've been one of those downloads.
Yeah,
And
but
yeah, I'm super happy for you and your team and your family with all your success and just happy to play a little part of it. And your kind words mean a lot. So keep doing what you're doing and thanks for including me and thanks for everybody for watching. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, John. That's it. I will catch everybody on the next episode. Like I said, these come out every 2 weeks. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whenever Chris Stout has the time to get these recorded. And I have an excellent guest like Jon Wright. So we'll put all the show notes at the bottom and we'll talk to everybody next week. Thanks a lot.